Hey everybody, welcome to Shooting the with Yankee. As always, I'm Yankee, so let's start shooting. Tonight's topic is a pretty easy one. It's something you can relate your experiences with here. What is the worst gun you've ever owned? Handgun, long gun. And why was it so bad? You don't have to tell us why it was so bad if you don't want to, but tell us just what was the worst gun you ever owned. And it doesn't have to be because it blew up when you shot it. It could just be it was the most uncomfortable gun. It could be it was unreliable. It could just be it was the ugliest thing you think you'd ever seen. Whatever your opinion is, it's right because it's your opinion. So let us hear what is your worst gun you've ever owned. And I'll start the ball rolling here. Now, I know I'm tempted to say like my little Beretta Pico because firing pin broke first time I tried to dry fire it. Had to get it replaced because, you know, those little firing pins are very fragile. It's also the ugliest gun I think I've ever seen. And that one was going to be the worst gun I think I ever owned. But you know what? It does what it's supposed to do, and it's a super easy to conceal gun. So I really don't think I'm going to call it the worst gun I've ever owned. I think I'm going to stick with what I said was probably the worst gun to come out in the last several decades. And it's from a company that has since redeemed itself. They now make some excellent small guns, as well as making probably the best small revolver on the market today. And that company's Kimber. And the gun they put out was the Solo. And the Solo was just an awful gun. It was not reliable. It was ugly. It had a big old manual safety on the side of it that looked like they glued it on as an afterthought. It was just horrible ergonomics. It was not comfortable. It was just everything that you could probably design wrong about a gun. It seems like they sat down with a committee of people and they said, how could we make the most bland, ineffective gun ever? And came up with the Kimber Solo. It was just awful. That was the worst gun. Couldn't get rid of it fast enough. I think the only gun I ever sold faster was a Ruger that I bought. Remember when they were doing the polymer guns that they were doing, like the SR9s and things? I bought that gun, took it home, hated that gun so bad the first time I tore it apart and looked at it that I took it back and traded it in that day. So, but still, the Kimber Solo was a worse gun than that. So that's my worst gun I've ever owned, the Kimber Solo. And like I said, Kimber has redeemed themselves since then, but that gun was pure trash. So let's go on over here and see if other people are weighing in and what they think the worst gun they ever owned was. Aaron Talks Firearms says the Sky CPX 9mm, the only gun with a worse trigger than a high point. I had more failures with the Sky than all my other handguns combined. That's one of those guns that I think a lot of people hate. I've heard a lot of people say they hate it. I've heard a lot of people say it's a great gun, but they always add for the money. And they used to be really cheap. I don't know if they're as cheap now as they used to be, but I mean, when they first came out, they were super cheap. And they came in all kinds of pretty collars and stainless slides and everything. I was even tempted to get one, never did. But I've heard a lot of people say that they're very uncomfortable, that they bash your fingers, that they're just not reliable. So I probably would never recommend one, and definitely I ain't going to be owning one anytime soon. Adriel, I think that's how you pronounce it. I swing to the $5. Oh, he's telling us he became a $5. He's saying he became a TYMP pet defender on Subscribestar. Well, that's welcome. Thank you very much. That helps support the Pets and Vets program, but you're doing it through Subscribestar, which is more pro-gun friendly. So you're being more using the more pro-gun platform, but supporting Pets and Vets. Peter D says, honestly, the worst I ever had was a Charter Arms Bulldog in 40. Functioned fine, but not good quality and not even cut for moon clips. I wanted a Charter Arms Bulldog really bad. The thing I really liked about it, you remember, of course, the way the ejector's set up, that you can eject the bullets without a moon clip. So that's kind of the reason I think it wasn't cut for a moon clip. was because it was made with that special spring-loaded star that could eject semi-automatic rounds without needing a moon clip. Because that's kind of why you need a moon clip with automatic caliber guns, semi-automatic caliber guns in a revolvers, because there's no rim, so you have to have some way to eject them. The moon clips do that, but they also make it easier to load. So it's nice to have that option. But that gun didn't need that. So I will defend that aspect of it, but I agree with you that they're just not well made. They're fine, and I can understand people that like revolvers want to try one. I've just never been able to bring myself to get one, even though I really did want that one. But it's mainly because it had a little pit bull doggy on the barrel. That's why I really wanted it. Mr. Furley said, I made a G19 out of non-Glock parts. It sucked. How did you make a G19 out of non-Glock parts? You mean like bought your own like Wolf frame and, you know, another maker slide and stuff? I've done that in the past. I generally used Glock frames and then would add different stuff on it. I mean, you know, Gary was like that before he was mercilessly slaughtered by possums. But, you know, generally I kept to a Glock frame. The only time I've built one without Glock parts is the PSA I built. And I'll have to say, it's one thing I'll have to say Never Enough Ammo has been right about, that is, so far it seems to have been a wonderful gun. And you know, it must be good if I'm saying Never Enough Ammo was right about something. So that should tell you something right there. We got Johnny Mandrake chiming in here, and he said, Rock Island Snub Nose 38 Special, can't shoot it straight. I was never impressed with the Rock Island revolver's qualities. Now, they got some new ones out now that are that appear to be a lot better. I actually did a little video on one. But the original, I just was not a fan of their quality. Now, I don't know if you're saying that gun's not accurate. Well, I couldn't believe it would be inaccurate unless there's some really messed up rifling or crooked barrel or something. It's just not comfortable in your hand and you can't shoot it, is what I think you're saying. And like I said, since it's your experience, that makes perfect sense. If you can't shoot it straight, then that's a bad gun. For you, it's not made for your hand. Let's just say that. Fire Goozy, tied between P3AT. Well, that should be everybody's pretty much answer is Kel-Tec, whatever it is. Excuse me. I just thought that was low-hanging fruit, so I stayed away from it. But I'm glad you said it. Tied between P3AT and Taurus PT22. PT22 was better build quality, but trigger was really bad, so I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Kel-Tec wouldn't cycle. Yeah, Kel-Tecs, they're basically paperweights, shaped like guns. But the PT22, that is bad. If the trigger is so bad that you can't really accurately fire the gun, well, that's bad. So that would definitely, I think, would count. Although I'm going to say the P3AT is probably worse because you could at least actually shoot the P22. George Powell chimed in here and said, Glock 43 Jam-O-Matic, while my cheap Ruger EC9S fired the same ammo with no issue. You know, you're not the first person to tell me the Glock 43 jammed on a lot with specific ammos. And I think it's because it's such a small little gun, you run into that problem. Like with my bullpup, I can't shoot any Fort Scott ammo. I've ordered some Fort Scott ammo to see if I can shoot it in my, what the fuck is it called? My Tomcat. But yeah, I think when you get into tiny guns, some ammos just don't work. So I think the Glock 43 might be susceptible to that. Well, of course it would be. It's just a regular gun. So you're not the first person to say that. I'm sure there's worse, but Adriel, who chimed in earlier about Subscribestar, now says P365 XL frame out of spec. Wilson's grip fixed it. Well, that's one way you fix it, get you the Wilson grip. So that's the good thing about the gun. The P365, P320, etc. The firing control unit's the gun, and it's a serialized part. So if something like a frame being out of spec, what is that, $30 fix, $40 fix? Now you got the Wilson combat frame, so it's probably more than that for the Wilson combat frame. But, you know, they're not expensive. A P320 frame's like $50 tops, I think. At least it was back when I had a P320. I don't know about now. But Yeah, having a gun out of spec would not be good, but at least it was an easy fix. And now it probably looks a lot nicer with that. I like those Wilson Combat frames. Felice Shanice says blowback P3K 380 PKS Beretta Cheetah, ouch, recoil. Blowback guns are a little snappy on the recoil. That's why you don't see them in 9mm guns. A lot of people are like, well, why don't they chamber the PPK in 9mm? Well, because it would sting like a motherfucker. That's why they don't chamber it in. I'm cursing a lot in this video. I got the potty mouth. I got to stop doing that. I got to edit this out. But yeah, that would sting really bad because blowback designs, not absorbing any of the recoil hardly at all. So just abusive guns to shoot. That's why they're 380s and 32s, etc. Because at least then it doesn't break your hand. We got Sweetie weighing in here. Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 38 Special. Sometimes it would just rotate and fire on the next cylinder. Other times fire the cylinder, and when you pull it again, then rotate. Yeah, that don't sound like that's working right. It sounds like you got a problem with your foot or hand or whatever. Want to call it. Different manufacturers call them different things. I always call them the hand. It's the little piece that comes up out and shoves the gun. It sounds like you either had a problem with the hand itself not engaging properly, or maybe some damage on the star, and that's not good on a new gun for it to be doing that. So that's definitely bad. I would definitely agree with that. You kind of want them to go off when you pull the trigger and rotate the cylinder. You want them to rotate the cylinder, go off, rotate the cylinder, go off. You don't want to really mess with that timing there because that's not good. And Mikey D weighed in. Looks like he's the last person to weigh in here today. And he said, probable my Ruger KP90 DC cases everywhere. I'm not even familiar with that gun, but if you're saying it throws casings in weird places and weird directions. I've had guns before, and the Solo did this. Okay, now the casing went this way. Now the casing went back over your head. Now the casing went right in your face. Now the casing went the other way. You can't rely on where it's going to go, period. The Solo, that's one of the things it did that I didn't like. So there you have it. There's everybody's worst gun they've ever owned. How about you? What is the worst gun you've ever owned? Put it in the comment section. Let's share your experience with everybody. Maybe someone will avoid owning a crappy gun. I hope to hear from you here. And if you want to weigh in on one of these topics live, or just stick around after and engage in the open chat, come to one of our live chats. We do them every night at 6 p.m. except for Wednesdays when they're at 7 p.m. and we got one last person weighing in here. John Mandrick said, Sig P320, mine only goes off when I pull the trigger. Well, you got a bad one. Like I said, you need one of those ones that just goes off when they need to, whenever they want, basically. That way, if you ever get in trouble, like I said last night, you just throw it on the ground, let it take care of the bad guys while you run away, and then you come back after the dust is settled and get your gun back. So, yeah, you got to look into that. Maybe contact SIG. Maybe they can tell you what to do. But as I was saying, come to one of our live chats. Hope to see you at one soon. Until then, remember, always carry and stay safe until I see you again.